What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, where we're going to be breaking down King and Queen of the Ring. I am Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert E. Felice. And
I am the king. The king forgot he was muted. I am the king. Hello.
Before we get started, quick programming note. I'm going to say this on the other recording that we're going to do today because the schedule had to be shifted around this week. We were planning on doing one of these recordings today, one of them on Thursday, usual hot tags on Friday, and the pay-per-view points on Saturday and Sunday. Well, I mentioned this on the previous podcast, but I do, in fact, need to have my wisdom teeth taken out on Thursday morning now. So that switched up this kind of stuff. Rob and Callum have so graciously volunteered to do the hot tags without me on Friday, unless of course I am able to do it, which I don't know for sure. I'm assuming I probably won't. I don't know about Friday, or not Friday night, Saturday afternoon and Sunday. We will see what that entails, but that means that we're recording both of these preview podcasts back to back today instead. We won't get the opportunity to watch the tomorrow episode of Dynamite prior to watching the whole setup or for the Double or Nothing and all. So we're going to have the preliminary set of predictions when it comes to some of that stuff. Some of that will change, of course, throughout the week, and in whatever fashion I can update you on smarkoutmoment.com, I will try to take care of as much as I possibly can, but that's a quick programming note on that front. Of course, obviously, keep in mind all the other stuff that we normally talk about, the Marketplace stuff, Redbubble and TeePublic to pick up your merchandise, Patreon, subscribe to those different tiers that are there. The YouTube channel membership is up there on YouTube, of course. That's why I said YouTube. Make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Ring that notification bell just in case we do end up going live for the post shows for this weekend. If I'm able to, I will. If I'm not able to, we won't. I'll post something out there if I am not able to, or I guess probably if I'm not able to, you'll just know if it doesn't go up. But if I am able to, and I'm gonna try to make that the case, then I'll probably post something out there. I might post something up on Facebook group. I might post something up on the Discord. Maybe I'll tweet something. I don't know, whatever it'll be. So just stay tuned for more information on that front. But with that out of the way, let's start talking about King and Queen of the Ring. The 5 matches that are currently scheduled, and we don't even know for sure what those 5 matches are going to be 100% because we still have SmackDown to get through. They did not record that in advance, so we are still left kind of questioning what the finals are for 2 of those. But we do know 5 matches, and it seems based off of the last couple events that that is probably all we're going to get for this. They might announce some other stuff. First question that we normally get, do you guys think we're going to get any more matches out of the card? Do you think that this is going to be the full lineup?
It's a Triple H pay-per-view, so yeah, 5 is probably the most he can manage.
5 is probably good enough too. You don't need to bloat it. They just did a tag team title match. I don't think they could hotshot DIY A-Town Down Under, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Did they announce yet if that was supposed to be scheduled for anything? I don't think that they had said they're going to do a title shot on SmackDown.
Anything, but they did beat them. They did beat LWO in front of them, and it was very clear that they want a title shot. Kelsey's also fighting Bayley on the SmackDown before, so if she wins, maybe that gets added to the card. But I don't think anything unexpected will just suddenly pop up.
They do have room for more on this card, and they could just sort of spring some kind of an impromptu Intercontinental title match or something. We already have that Intercontinental title on the line. I'm thinking United States, but that's not on the line. They could do a tag title thing. They could do something else. For all we know, they just decide to do some extraneous Tama Tonga versus LA Knight match or something. But
that would probably be Mello versus LA Knight, if anything.
Yeah, true. They do They both are definitely out of the tournament, and they both are trading some shots back and forth. So maybe they end up putting that on the card. But of course, we're not going to know until they announce it. So might just be these 5 matches, which currently the 5 matches are the King and Queen of the Ring finals, hence the pay-per-view. We have a women's world title match, an intercontinental title triple threat match, and an undisputed WWE championship match. They're still going with the undisputed WWE championship name. And, you know, I mean, we talked before about the possibilities of both belts being on the line and all. Break that down in a moment, too. First things first, I think for the 5 matches that we know, at least, I think probably the simplest one for us to break down would probably be Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan is basically all but confirmed as a heel at this point. She basically just keeps going down that path in a way that you kind of can't deny it. Spent a lot of time this week on Raw establishing some people in that way. Like Braun Breaker was just like, yeah, I'm a heel now. And yeah, they kind of cemented more of the whole Alpha Academy thing, and Liv Morgan didn't do anything remotely tweenerish, just full-blown heel. So there are a lot of people out there that I'm seeing that are very much convinced that Liv Morgan is going to win this title, and I can't quite tell why they think that that's necessarily going to be the case, unless it's just that they're big Liv Morgan fans. But
I think it's just Becky should just go on vacation, like just go do something else with. I think Liv Morgan should probably just win it. And I think the only argument to be made for Liv Morgan not winning it is Raw, in terms of star power, is struggling. And that's something I thought might be fixed with Cody winning the belt. I thought they might keep him on Raw at first before they establish the rules of the draft. But the only reason I could see keeping it on Becky is for the purposes of star power. But I think Liv Morgan should just get it here so she can hold it for like 2 months or whatever before Rhea Ripley comes back for that title at SummerSlam.
I'd say that Liv stands a good chance of winning just based on, I'd say we don't know what Becky's contract situation is like. Obviously, the likelihood is that she will re-sign eventually, but maybe she doesn't want to do it straight away. So that means, and you can't ever eliminate the possibility until she does re-sign with WWE that she'll go somewhere else or want to do something else instead of wrestling for a while. So in which case you probably are best placed putting it on the person who safely is going to be there for the long term. But Robbie's right. That's a pretty weak top end of the card until Rhea Ripley comes back. Raw's women's division in particular is very, very like mid in most of their people. A lot of it is just in the tag team division, and so they're going to need to have to elevate somebody to another level. And they seem to be trying to do that with Lyra. That seems to be the next big one for them. So maybe her winning Queen of the Ring, when we get to talking that, maybe that could help resolve the issue a little bit of having like a new fresh face coming in to shake up the division. But yeah, I would say that out of the two, I'm more likely to lean towards Liv just because of that whole situation, but it very much depends on what Becky wants to do. Because if they are happy, if Becky's happy to stick around and continue to do stuff for a while, I probably would think that just due to the situation they find themselves in, it might just be more sensible to keep the belt on Becky for a while.
See, I could see a scenario for sure where Liv Morgan wins and she takes this heel character that she's got going on and she applies that to being able to feud with like I mean, Lyra would definitely be one of her biggest quick challengers that they, whether she would win Queen of the Ring or not, they could easily just kind of put her in that spot. And they could, I guess, play around with some of the other people on there. Like maybe they do something enough where it's like Liv against there's a lot more heels on Raw. Especially if they end up turning somebody like an Ivy or a Maxine. But like I guess they could maybe go with like a Shayna thing if they wanted to, or a Zoe thing in the meantime. But with the amount of heels that they do have on there, kind of makes me just think that it's going to be as straightforward as Becky retains. And then the next pay-per-view is not that far off. It's, how many weeks is that? That's, the NXT Battleground's technically the next pay-per-view after that, but that doesn't really count. So June 15th is Clash at the Castle. That's enough weeks that they could kind of continue this Becky and Liv thing and just stretch it out to there. And then maybe Liv wins then, if they want to kind of do something like that. Of course, the Money in the Bank's right after that too, July 6th. So I don't know how long Rhea is meant to be out, but her presence is her lack of presence is definitely felt. And if they went with Liv Morgan here, I wouldn't be the biggest, it wouldn't be the biggest shocker in the world for me. I actually kind of hope that they do, but Becky winning to me feels like when in doubt, you go with the champion retaining it, especially if they're a bigger name. So I'm going to go with Becky. You guys are going more Liv?
Looking at the roster breakdown and there being more heels changes my perspective a little bit, because maybe they do just stretch it out to Clash. But I think for now, I'll say I'm leaning towards Liv winning. My fantasy league prediction may change.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm still going with Liv winning. I don't think the fact that they're heel heavy really changes that much, because Liv's just going to hold it until Rhea comes back, if that's the case. So essentially, it doesn't really matter who she's facing. She's not going to drop the title until Rhea's back. I think Clash of the Castle, they could just do a Becky rematch, because if Becky's still around, and if not, then they'll pivot to Lyra. That's basically the options for me.
You want to talk about Lyra?
I want to talk about her as the only one that we know for sure is in the finals of the Queen of the Ring.
Boy, but I wonder who she's facing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So she's either going to go up against Becky. Sorry, my mind's all over the place. Bianca Belair or Nia Jax. And this tournament turned out far different than I expected that it would. Before we even had the bracket, I had some people in mind. I was thinking Tiffany Stratton, of course, was one of the main options. I thought that maybe they would go with somebody like a Chelsea Green or something who's not even in the tournament. And as this is going along, and we had Jade Cargill lose by DQ to Nia Jax last week, that was a possibility that I thought could happen. But I was definitely leaning more towards Io beating Lyra. And Lyra beating Io threw me off, because now I got to assume it's Nia Jax versus Lyra Valkyria, because they're not going to put Bianca Belair against her and then have Bianca just be cheered so massively more over Lyra. And I can't imagine them giving the Queen of the Ring to Bianca right now either. So it's either Lyra wins or Nia Jax wins, I guess. And that in and of itself just makes me go, okay, that doesn't compute with what I had thought that they were going to do. So if Lyra wins Queen of the Ring, that's a big boost for her to just be like, all right, we're going to put you on the Raw roster after giving you this championship in NXT, and we're going to give you straight the Queen of the Ring crown. But I am leaning a little bit more towards Nia. And Nia using that to propel her to challenge Bayley at Clash of the Castle.
Yeah, I think that's the path that they're probably going to take. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate what they've been doing with Lyra. They've clearly decided, okay, we understand that we don't have a lot of top babyface stars at the moment, with Rhea out injured, Becky's whole situation up in the air, Raquel is in and out in terms of her health status. And then you've just got people like Natalya and Shayna and Zoe Stark, who are just, they're tag team wrestlers at this point in time. So they've decided, okay, we're going to go gung-ho with Lyra and try and make her a big deal straight away. And so having her beat Io Sky and some other people on the route to earning this opportunity is a good path to get her there. But I think that she will fall short to Nia Jax, because Nia seems to be pretty quickly being positioned as the person to, I don't think, not only challenge Bayley at Clash of the Castle, but beat Bayley at Clash of the Castle for the title. So yeah, I think that Nia will defeat Bianca Belair on SmackDown. Obviously, if it changes, then we'll see. But right now, I'm saying Nia wins the SmackDown side of things, and then beats Lyra Valkyria at the pay-per-view, and then challenges Bayley at Clash of the Castle. Just mainly because the last time like Bayley defended a title in the UK, it was against Nia Jax at NXT Takeover London, all those years ago. So they can tell a little bit of like a narrative between those things are coming full circle.
Did you know that offhand, or did you do the research for it?
No, I knew that offhand.
Bayley's not a champion that gets to go to different countries.
It's one of those things that it always impresses me when you guys are like, oh yeah, I remember that was like in your house, whatever, and the pay-per-view was that. I'm like, I don't fucking remember that.
Well, because it's the only NXT show that took place in London. Bayley wasn't a super long reigning, has never really been a super long reign champion except for one title reign, which all took place in a pandemic.
Yep.
So she wasn't going anywhere for that one. So yeah, it was pretty obvious to pick that one out. I remember that because it's one of the only good matches Nia Jax ever had. So,
I want to talk a little bit about the structure of the tournament, because prior to this, I think I was definitely, it's Tiffany, and it's gonna be Tiffany, and I don't know where Tiffany stands currently, but once they set up the semifinals, I said, okay, there's a good chance we get Io versus Bianca just as a fuck you, you're never getting away from Bianca versus Damage Control. And now that Lyra's won the Raw side, it feels like an obvious that it's Nia, and the only way I think it's not is if they really want Lyra to, she's beaten Becky, she's beaten all these people, do you give her a win over Bianca? That's just me throwing out the hypothetical. I don't think that's the route we go. I don't even think we go with Queen of the Ring, Lyra Valkyria, because I think this is, and I mean this, I know it's this podcast, but I mean this, I think we're about to see a Mabel run from Nia. And it makes sense. She's done great since she's come back. She's earned something. But this kind of gimmick dampens everybody, because it's just like, yes, you did win something called the Queen of the Ring, but I don't need the crown and the throne and I don't necessarily know if I want to see that going forward, but I do think that's what we're getting. And I do think it's Queen Nia. And I think there's a good chance Nia even wins the women's title here soon.
I mean, on the SmackDown side of things, it sort of, I guess, depends on how far they want to go with Bayley's title reign. Like, at a quick glance, I think that we can get a couple more feuds out of her, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to have that for the title. Like, Bayley could fight Blair Davenport, but they have to build her up a little bit more. And she could have a feud with maybe like Tegan Knox, or, she had that one thing with Tiffany Stratton. Maybe they could revisit that in the future, but I do kind of get a little bit of a sense that they're already tired of Bayley as champion, and the amount of attention that she gets on SmackDown isn't really all that much. So,
well, but all right, we need to have that conversation one day about, well, who the fuck did Bayley piss off? Like, why can't Bayley be on the poster of things? Why, Bayley is as weird. Important to all of the things that you fixate on when talking about Charlotte and Becky and even Sasha, who's not there. Bayley is as important to all of that. Why can't she just have a nice little run? It really does feel like we're just, checking the watch to see, okay, when are you losing it? And that's not fair.
It does seem like it's a recurring thing, though. They don't like putting her on posters. They don't really have her doing much all that, on the SmackDown side of any kind of real intriguing feud. It's mostly just kind of well, remember, she's here. And I wouldn't be shocked if Nia did win that belt. and then she dropped it to Jade or Charlotte or Bianca, whatever they decide to do. Or even Naomi. I mean, I don't think that would be the case, but it's a possibility.
I highly doubt that one.
I think she'd at least feud with her. Like Nia Jax versus Naomi at, say, Money in the Bank probably could happen. Or whatever the pay-per-view is that's immediately following Money in the Bank. I'm forgetting what that is. I think it's SummerSlam. Or is it SummerSlam or is it Bash in Berlin that goes first?
It's SummerSlam.
Okay. So, I mean, right now I'm feeling more Nia Jax wins, beats Lyra Valkyria, gets her kind of something at least in the meantime to do, and Lyra could still feud with Liv going forward if they want to, if they give the belt to Liv without winning Queen of the Ring. Like, she could just win a number one contenders match against, I don't know, the Dakota Kai.
The women of Raw.
Yeah. I don't know what they would do with damage control and all that. I don't think that they're necessarily even thinking that far ahead. I think that they're just sort of in a spot where they're like, all right, let's do whatever we need to do. But the ultimate pick for me, I'm going to go Nia Jax wins Queen of the Ring.
I'm also going Nia Jax.
Yep, Nia Jax.
Now, Sonya Deville is also now seemingly in the Raw mix, but she's also a heel. So,
and she's also going to do an angle with Baszler and Stark. By the way, did they announce that for this pay-per-view?
The thing with them? No.
They won a tag title opportunity.
No, that's at least not on anything I've seen.
Oh, well, I guess they can't announce it because Bianca might be in the tournament finals. Never mind.
True. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Which, if that's the case, I don't think that they'll announce it on Friday anyway. I think that they'll probably just kind of do, in the future, you get a tag title shot. We'll figure it out on SmackDown or Raw in the meantime. I would assume probably Monday Night Raw, but at least those two fronts, we got those predictions. So let's move over to the triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. Sami Zayn, a.k.a. The Soul, up against Chad Gable, a.k.a. The Mind, and Bronson Reed, a.k.a. The Body. And
is that what we're doing here?
Is that how they're advertising it?
Yeah, that totally is. You guys didn't see that?
That's kind of fun. I like that. It's a little silly, but I kind of like it.
Sammy's promo
I heard
was...
him call himself The Soul, but I didn't realize he had done that whole thing for all of them.
His promo was, it's a battle of the mind and the body and the soul. Bronson Reed's the body because he's the big, strong guy. Chad Gable's a, quote, master manipulator, one of the best of all time, which I'm like, what, since when? And that he is the soul. And if he is going to bet on any of those, then he'll always bet on the soul winning out. And I'm like,
all right, I like that.
They took a little bit of time to figure that out. And I like that. The Alpha Academy element of this whole thing, Maxine didn't want to do anything on Raw to interfere in the match, and Akira Tozawa didn't do anything. Otis reluctantly did, but then he apologized to Sami afterward. He tried to convince Chad Gable to apologize as well. So Otis is still in that tweenerish, doesn't want to be a heel, but he feels pressure to be a heel. If he gets involved, it wouldn't be shocking. But he could get involved and do something with Bronson. He doesn't have to necessarily do anything with Sami. So Bronson's inclusion in here makes me lean more towards the title staying where it is. If he were replaced by not necessarily anybody else, but somebody on Raw who's not this big dude or like a major star, like if, obviously if they would have replaced him with like, Drew McIntyre, then it'd be like, okay, I don't think that means Chad Gable wins. But, let's just say theoretically, if they would have had, instead of Bronson Reed, if it would have been somebody like Kofi Kingston or Pete Dunne or Ricochet, then I would be kind of thinking, hey, maybe this is the time that Chad Gable wins and he just doesn't beat Sami Zayn. Now I just lean more towards, all right, Sami Zayn retains. And Chad Gable probably doesn't take the pin so that they can have another match in the future. Maybe it's Bronson Reed gets pinned, and it's something that happens with Chad getting distracted by Otis. And that's the thing that pushes him to be like, you know what, Otis, you're out. The Creed brothers are in. They did a little thing on Raw where you had cut to the backstage area and Chad Gable was telling some kind of a story to the Creed brothers, and they're all like, that's great. Like, haha. So he's like working his way into what I would assume is the thing that we've been talking about, where the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile replace Tozawa, Otis, and Maxine. And I think to do that, you need to boot Otis out. And to boot Otis out, you need a reason to. And losing here, or at least coming up short and not winning, could be the reason why. So I go more for Sami Zayn hits a haluva kick on Bronson Reed and pins him than any other scenario.
I think there's a good chance Gable does get the pin, and I think Bronson's here to make sure that Gable and Sami don't have to beat the other. But I think there's a good chance it goes to Gable. But I do like your idea. The only weird thing so far is that they don't seem to be leaning towards Ivy, leaving Maxine, but I'm hoping that they do get around to it, because realistically, Chad Gable just taking Diamond Mine is the best thing they could do. And I think it could start here with the win by Gable, but if he doesn't win here, then I think it's Sami. But I'm up in the air right now between the two.
Definitely not leaning towards Bronson, though. Right?
So I think the reason why Bronson Reed is in there is to take the pin against Sami, just primarily because they basically for the months leading up to this, Sami Zayn can't beat Bronson Reed is basically the story they've been telling alongside all of the Chad Gable and Sami Zayn stuff. So I think he's there to help further along the Sami Zayn and Chad Gable stuff, but then also to get the kind of monkey off of Sami Zayn's back of not being able to beat this guy. So you kind of kill off both the Zayn and Reed feud off of this while still maintaining the Gable stuff for a different audience. Maybe that could be something for either Clash of the Castle or just an episode of Raw somewhere down the road. So yeah, if it was my feeling at the moment is that it's going to be Sami Zayn retaining.
Do you
if you're going to do it like that, I think it should be Gable has Reed beat, and Sami Zayn just happens to, either roll up, get Gable out of there, pin Reed, and another way for Gable to go, shit, I had it again. Like, you're not a real champion.
That was the question I was going to ask was, do you guys think if Sami retains that we still just come back around to Chad Gable, or do you think that that's kind of maybe Sami does have something with Gable, but he beats him? Like, I kind of would lean more towards it makes more sense if Gable wins the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, he has to be the one to beat Sami.
Yeah, but they'll carry it out for another a few month at least.
Either an episode of Raw or Clash of the Castle.
Yeah,
I do an episode of Raw.
This is what their booking is like. This is what Triple H's booking is like. It's like you don't do it the first attempt, you wait until 2 or 3 times to do it. That's how Shawn Michaels books NXT as well. Like, never on the first time. You never.
And again, if you watch their careers, Triple H doesn't win the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. He wins it the next night. Like, even if it's just wait one day, it's never.
I'm pretty sure Sami Zayn's not going to Stone Cold Steve Austin Chad Gable in this instance. But I think that they see that they can extend this out further. It gives it more chance for Gable to get frustrated with the people around him, whether that means that he's forming a new crew or it's just a case of him just getting them to get more on his side until finally Otis or somebody else can do it. Also, I also just don't think, just based on the results that I've checked out from last night's Raw, that had Gable beat Zayn on Raw, so they're not going to have Gable beat him on again. It's just straight up booking philosophy for pretty much every wrestling promotion. If the guy loses on the show beforehand, they're going to win at the pay-per-view. So
yeah, about like 9 out of 10 times that typically ends up happening. So Sami Zayn across the board, I think, here. And that puts us down to 2 more matches to talk about here. One of them being the King of the Ring tournament final, which is Gunther against either Randy Orton or Tama Tonga. And I highly, highly, highly doubt that this is going to be Gunther against Tama Tonga, because that would be kind of crazy for them to decide to book a heel versus heel thing with that setup. Randy Orton beating Tama Tonga, you know, Tama Tonga can lose to Randy Orton. He's Randy Orton. The guy's got some of the most title reigns of anybody in the entire history of pro wrestling. He's a future Hall of Famer. You're fine. And especially if that ends up being like LA Knight comes out, screws him over, and we get some kind of shenanigans or something. A lot of people were really surprised that Jey Uso didn't beat Gunther, and that we didn't get Jey versus Tama, which was definitely something we were talking about last week of that's a possibility that they could do that. But Gunther winning here just circles back to the original setup for this, which seems like it's a Gunther win. He beats Sheamus and Kofi and Jey Uso, and then I would guess Randy Orton. Randy Orton does not need the King of the Ring at all. He hasn't for 15 years at this point.
And this is a great way to get to this match without needing to, okay, let's book a whole Randy Gunther feud. Let's try to figure out why they would fight. This is a great way to do it. I think they'll have a fantastic match. I did think that there was a good chance it would be Jey against Tama, if only because bloodline representation is like the most important thing to this company. And there was the built-in story that no one's mentioned of Tama Tonga being the son of King Haku. And I thought, okay, that's a very easy way to factor in bloodline and legacy and all those things. But they went with Gunther, and I'm assuming Randy, and that should be a really fun match, with Gunther, of course, getting the win.
It's one of those matches that I was looking forward to for sure. I kind of figured maybe it would have been better if they would have done a feud. They could get something out of it like that, but yeah, I mean, we could revisit this in the future for like a true feud beyond this, but Randy and Gunther is like on the list of who can fight Gunther that I would be really into. I still think that like Gunther and Logan Paul would be a lot of fun. I still want to see the Brock Lesnar match and all that. You know, there's still a list of people that are going to be really good to have a match with Gunther, but Randy and Gunther, that's something that's, you know, we're not going to really just see that on a whim, and the people in Saudi Arabia are going to go crazy for it. So I'm all for that being the final. It wouldn't have been at all what I have booked if I just looked at this. I don't think that that's how I would have ended up planning this out, but I am totally down for it. How about you, Callum?
I think they've done a fairly good job of booking the men's side of the King of the Ring tournament. I think that the way that they structured the final 2 matches to have like Gunther versus Jey Uso and then Randy Orton and Tama Tonga basically saying, okay, it's either going to go one direction or it's going to go the other direction. Obviously, it's made whatever the result was on Raw, and it turned out to be Gunther, made the other SmackDown match incredibly predictable. But at least they gave 2 different options, and each of them could have been fairly feasible. Whereas now that you do have Gunther and it's likely to be against Randy Orton, that should be a fun match. It's like an interesting clash of, not even like real clash of styles, really. I think Gunther can really adapt himself to Orton's style. I think that the way I saw someone describe it on Twitter when I was just scrolling around to say, like, this is literally going to be 23 minutes of Gunther working over Randy Orton's back, and Randy Orton just like every now and again just not being able to move around. He's just going to lay around on the mat for 20 of these 23 minutes, but I think that'll suit him just fine. Yeah, I think this would be a good match. I think it's actually better as a one and done thing rather than a feud, because I just don't think that Randy's body could take 2 or 3 matches with Gunther. I think it's better just to get the one and done out of the way.
That is kind of how I feel as well.
So yeah, I think that they'll go. Well, I said they'll go all out. It's a Saudi show, so they'll just, they'll do enough to entertain the audience and hopefully.
There isn't much in a Randy Orton match, I gotta tell you.
Yeah,
those folks love Randy Orton.
Yeah. So yeah, and Gunther will get the victory, become King of the Ring, and can move forward from that point onwards. But That's basically how I see it going.
So that's another 3 for all going Gunther. Not surprising at all on that front. And then we have the undisputed WWE Championship match. Cody Rhodes defending against Logan Paul, which prior to this past episode of SmackDown, they had basically been hinting at it being a title for title match, and that Cody could walk out of this with the United States title, become a Grand Slam champion, set that all up as a possibility. And then they decided to, either they realized that they were pitching that more and then went, oh crap, no, we have to really let them know that that's not the case, or they planned on being like, Logan Paul got our hopes up and, screw that guy or whatever. In any fashion, the United States title is not on the line. Logan Paul is perfectly safe to take a pinfall here, and he will, because there is absolutely no way that Logan Paul is going to win the undisputed WWE Championship and hold that alongside the United States title, beating Cody Rhodes right after WrestleMania. It's not happening.
Yeah, for a minute, I was really impressed by Cody's ability to suck people into the idea of, I should win the US title and be a Grand Slam. And I was like, they're being very, they're not telling their cards with the promotion for this match. And then finally, it's because that was going to be their one angle to book the match, which was, Logan says, I don't want this. I'm only challenging. I'm not defending, which is fine. They should have a really fun match. Cody wins. This is exactly what I thought a post-Roman WWE would look like, where, okay, they're not marquee matches to a certain extent, but hey, we got active champions. And I'm still in a mindset of I'll take that, and this should be fun. Cody, obviously.
So, obviously, Cody's going to win. My kind of bigger issue is that I think they're kind of treading the line at the moment of making Cody seem dumb. In the sense that, so in that contract signing, the agreement was, again, I didn't watch it, but that's what I've read, that it was supposed to be Logan essentially drew up another contract saying that his title wouldn't be on the line, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like the original contract said that it was going to be a title versus title match, and then Logan said, oh no, I'm just going to fight for his title, and my title's not going to be on the line.
In a lot of ways.
So I'm basically just going with Cody. It's like, and Cody just agreed to it. Like, how about Cody just says, no. Then in which case, we're not having this match. I'll find someone else to fight me at a Crown Jewel instead. The Crown Jewel, King of the Ring, whatever. But
same thing.
But yeah, but it's just basically, it makes it feel like, oh, I'll just fight whoever, and maybe I'll wrestle with one hand tied behind my back, and you can kick me in the leg beforehand as well. I'll let you have the first shot. It's like, it's very, very 1980s cookie cutter babyface thing. And one thing I know about 1980s cookie cutter babyfaces is that we're not in 1980s anymore, and people don't respond to that kind of babyface much. I know Cody is a bit of a throwback, and people do kind of like that, but if you lean too heavily into this Hulk Hogan, John Cena style babyface, eventually it leads to rejection. Or at least a vocal rejection, if not like a total, like, I'm not saying that everyone would just stop buying his merchandise and everyone would start booing him, but at least there'd be that contingent of the crowd that always is there that would start going, yeah, this is kind of lame.
I hear you, and you're not wrong. That's the first thing I want to say. But I think for this, you can get away with it. I'm almost disappointed that they kind of fell back on the whole, Logan, you're not a real fan. I knew War Games was this day in 1992. And it's like, I think we're beyond that. And even Logan kind of felt more sharper when he was like, you said the same thing the last guy said, and the last guy said, and the guy before him. And in that sense, this is whatever, but they also had a 2-week build. I'm not going to be too mad. You know what I mean? This is just, hey, we have to get this match in. We wanted to do it. Let's just do it.
I do think, though, that there are so many better ways that they could have done this and had the exact same, like, match layout. Like, they could have had something you know, hey, we want to do this title versus title match, but we're told by Nick Aldis that we need to, I don't know, do some kind of like, not necessarily like, well, Nick Aldis doesn't want to sign off on it unless we prove ourselves because they already are champions, but like, put the match in jeopardy. Put it in something where it's like, all right, you want to have the United States title on the line. Okay, well then Cody, you're going to have to beat an opponent of Logan Paul's choosing. And if you beat that person, then you get to fight for the US title. And Logan Paul, you get to get a WWE title match if you beat somebody of Cody Rhodes choosing. And then they could have set up a thing where it could have been like, you know, Logan Paul picks like Carmelo Hayes. Let's just throw him out there as a heel.
But that works with anybody but Logan Paul. You're asking Logan Paul to wrestle a match on SmackDown, and you're asking it to be like, okay, now he's got to lose the belt. And fact is, they just don't want Logan losing.
Well, no, then I think the way that you do it is you have whoever Cody's up against win through some kind of like, you know, there's DQ or something like that. And it's like, that means that Cody doesn't get a chance to fight for the US title. And then Logan Paul has his title match against Cody because he beats whoever Cody picks. Like, yeah, Cody picks like LA Knight or something. I think that could have been a way to just quickly move into that kind of a scenario. And, you know, obviously they decided not to, but that makes more sense to me than like what Callum said. I mean, Cody comes off kind of stupid from just being like, okay, well, you've decided to change the negotiation and I'm fine with it. Be like, how many times does this guy need to... Somebody walks up to him and says, I decided I want to do a different match. And then he goes, all right, The Rock did it.
I mean, admittedly, Cody has form for this. Basically, all The Rock had to do was come in and say, hey, I want your title shot. And Cody said, yep, sure, fine.
Did you see, real quick, did you see that Brian Gewirtz was like, well...
He didn't act right.
He was supposed to be like, go get him, Rock. And it's like he said it as much as he could. Like, what the fuck do you want him to, like, start sucking The Rock off in the ring? What do you want?
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking with that. How would you, why would he respond with, like, please, Mr. Rock, please beat Roman instead of me? Like, no, of course not.
I mean, you could make the argument, the idea of, even just putting forward the idea of, Logan Paul was won X number of matches and he's been a fighting champion. Well, I say fighting champion, but he's like defended targets multiple people. He's earned a world title shot and could just leave it there. But it's the fact that they teased the idea that it was going to be a title versus title match and then reneged on it, which is the issue. So yeah, I say, and I know it's like the idea of, they've only had a few weeks build because they wanted to do this match. I could basically have the argument of, you don't have to do this match. You could save this match for later on and have a longer build, but you decided to do it here. And
so I hear you and I agree with you, but again, it's a weird thing that, and this is something we didn't talk about when we talk about matches not on the card. Why isn't Damian Priest defending his title?
Well, like, they didn't even say McIntyre's presumably injured still,
right? But you're telling me that you don't have anybody else on Raw?
I mean, I would argue no.
I mean, at this point, I guess it's getting to that.
Your other opponent is Finn Balor, and still technically at the moment they're still in the same group. So I guess that's kind of redundant at this point. I mean, they're saving Priest versus McIntyre for Clash of the Castle, and yeah, Triple H only does 5 matches for a show at most, so they've already hit their quota here.
Very strange that you couldn't just find someone.
Especially when you know that how much of this pay-per-view is going to be filled with commercials and stuff, which I guess in their mind, they're like, well, that's great, isn't it? Can't we make all of it commercials?
And I'd argue this, especially when it's like, and this is the only reason I'm good with Cody being an idiot, because you're still trying to get over the whole, we're fighting champions here, aren't we? Isn't that what we're doing right now? Like, everybody fights?
Well, they are going to fight Cody and Logan. it is going to be only for the WWE title, which then means even more so if you thought that there was any chance that Logan Paul was going to win. It's not happening. Like, Cody Rhodes is definitely retaining, and I'm a little bit surprised that they decided to go with this match here instead of SummerSlam, but maybe that means that they already have plans for either like Randy Orton match,
either Rock or Roman,
or like, Rock, yeah, or Solo, depending on what they end up wanting to pull the trigger on.
I'm surprised he's not fighting.
I mean, right now they don't have anybody in the Bloodline involved in this. Yeah,
that's surprising to me.
But that could lead to an LA Knight Tama Tonga match or something, like we said.
That's why they've just put Tama Tonga in the King of the Ring instead, so he could lose. They're protecting Solo. They're protecting him from Jacob Fatu, not even putting him on the show.
I mean, maybe we might get Camacho. I gotta stop calling him Camacho. He's not Camacho anymore.
Tangaloa.
You gotta stop calling him Camacho.
He's gonna be Camacho forever for me. Tangaloa. That's what he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the name he's been going for the last 10 years. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, once Camacho, always Camacho.
At least you're not calling him Micah.
He went by Micah at one point
in TNA when he was in the Rising with LA Knight and Drew McIntyre.
Sure. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe we get that. Maybe that's the whole thing is like, hey, impromptu LA Knight versus, I was going to say Camacho again, Tungaloa. And that's like, hey, you get to see him fight now. Because as far as I'm aware, he hasn't been booked for any other thing. Maybe they do have something planned for SmackDown, right? Yeah.
He's fighting on Friday. It's Solo and Tangaloa. They're going to beat the Street Profits.
Yeah, so never mind. Maybe that doesn't end up being the case. I don't know. Point being, they don't have anything to get set right now for the Bloodline. So it'll be interesting if they just keep them off this pay-per-view, and maybe they think that having the King and Queen of the Ring is good enough, and having this lineup, you've got a triple threat for the Intercontinental title. We got Becky Lynch here. We got Cody. We got Logan Paul. Maybe in their mind, they're like, look, we're giving you a lot, and you should be fine within your house King and Queen of the Ring.
Okay, last question. We don't think we're seeing the reveal of whatever we're calling this Wyatt-related group.
Bo Wyatt?
I'm trying to tell people on that.
He's going to be Bo Wyatt until he pops up and says something else, in my mind. I don't think that we're going to get that here. But they've been kind of ramping that up. So
I got to tell you, when the original Wyatt stuff happened 2 years ago, it was interesting, hard to follow, but interesting. This is do you even know what genre of entertainment you're working in? Have you seen the full 50-minute vignette with the therapist and all that? All right, credit for creativity, but at what point does this not transfer to TV well? I'm very concerned about that.
I just don't think it will. I think we're well past the point of hoping that Wyatt family-esque stories are going to work based off of how much they've failed in the past. And now that we don't even have Bray Wyatt in a creative capacity for that, it makes me even less convinced. But that might end up being the big thing. They might end up ending the show with Cody beats Logan Paul, he's celebrating, and then a lantern comes out or something, and we get some kind of people beating down Cody and setting that up. But it is kind of weird that they don't have Braun Strowman against Damian Priest. It is weird that they don't have the Bloodline. It's weird that they don't have Bayley in a match yet. It's weird that they don't have the tag titles despite setting up tag title matches and all. So they seem to be confident enough with this 5-match setup, and then maybe there's something else that they kind of go well, and we're also giving them that. So it could be that.
Yeah, I think that should be a TV reveal, and I don't know how it translates. I'm excited for the people involved because I'm always going to root for people being used when they're under contract, but it's very hard to follow.
You think we're getting any kind of reveal like that, Callum?
I don't care.
I mean, I respect this.
Well, that should be at least what we know ahead of time of King and Queen of the Ring. It's happening this Saturday. Like I mentioned before, we may or may not be having a post show immediately following it. I don't know for sure how my whole speaking ability is going to be, but in one way or another, unless I'm like zonked out and I've got, you know, like I'm asleep from some kind of pain or something like that, then I should at least be doing coverage for EWN and for Smark Out Moment. And then, you know, we're going to have to see about the post show and all. If I'm able to talk, I'll do it. If I'm not, then we won't. It's as simple as that. So I hope we are. I hope you guys are able to join us. Of course, make sure that you have your email alerts set up. That way, if I do go live, you can get that email to know that it is on there. And we'll, if not, then sometime next week or whatever it might be, then we'll talk in retrospect about that kind of stuff. We're not going to just leave you hanging and like never give our opinions about this stuff. So King and Queen of the Ring coming up this Saturday. I think it starts at the countdown is 11 Eastern, if I remember correctly, and the pay-per-view starts at noon. So book your calendars for that, and keep in mind all the other things we normally tell you about, you know, all that's marketplace stuff. Hit up the Discord. Make sure you are following fanboysanonymous.com, and check out the other stuff on the link tree. Just go to anthonymango.com or amangotree.com. Gives you the same list of different things. Follow me on there. Keep your eyes peeled. And check me out at Tony Mango at most of that. And also follow Robin Callum.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful.com. And stay tuned to all my social medias to see anything else in regards to me in the near future. I do believe the show starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you're, you know, setting your calendars, I believe that's correct. And no matter what, we will talk about the show at some point.
So you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their prior week's performances. And while you're there, you can also check out the Fantasy League, also at WWEFantasyLeague.com, because it'll be heavily influenced by what results take place at King and Queen of the Ring, because there'll be 2 big tournament winners. There'll be potentially some title changes, potentially some titles being retained, but plenty of points to go around. And of course, the predictions will also influence the order in which we eliminate people from our teams. Because, yeah, first pay-per-view means that, or first pay-per-view since Backlash means this will be the first time we'll be changing up our teams a little bit, dropping one person and switching out another person. So yeah, check all that stuff out. Follow along how the teams get updated over on the Fantasy League.
Okay, everybody. That means we're done for King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view point predictions. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Tell us what you agree with, you disagree with, any other kind of thoughts you might have. And stay tuned, because we are going to actually also record the Double or Nothing predictions. So I'm either going to upload that right after this is uploaded, or maybe I'll schedule it for tomorrow morning or something. I don't know. You'll see it down the line, though. So stay tuned and click on that one, too. And we'll see you when we see you. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.